Hi, I'm Holly Harris, and welcome back to my channel, Lipedema. Today's episode is for all the veterans out there who have been diagnosed with lipedema after getting out of the military, or who have a service-connected disability or condition, disease that's gotten worse since they got out. I'm in that situation now and ready to go to the VSO today to talk through what next steps would look like to request an increase in my VA disability rating, at least an adjustment. Now, of course, I don't know that I will get an adjustment that's an increase. I could also potentially, I guess, get a decrease. But one thing I do know is that the conditions that I had when I got out of the military in 2016, some of them have gotten worse. And so I think it is worthwhile to have a relook at those conditions and to be reevaluated. And I've had one really great friend tell me that I definitely should relook at this. It's not something that I would normally think about on my own, but she's convinced me that it makes sense. Now, of course, I'm not a legal, medical, or VA professional, but I think none of us is as good as all of us. So I'm just sharing what I know in hopes that it'll be helpful to you. And at the end of this video, I'll share out the 3 things that I think you'll need to do if you plan on filing a VA claim adjustment for an increase in your disability rating. So let's get into it. So the Veteran Service Organization representative that I've been working with, I met with about a month ago, and that was just for the purpose of bringing me into the fold, sort of from the VSO that I worked with many moons ago, back in 2016 when I got out, which was in another part of Virginia. And that was also like the de facto line in the sand of when I announced to the VA my intent to file. So he filed the paperwork with that intent to file, and then any determinations that happen in the future will be backdated, and any compensation accordingly will be backdated to that date when I first spoke with him and made that intent to file. So that'll be interesting to see. I don't really know how this will work out, but we'll see. And I have this amazing friend, right? She is a licensed clinical social worker, and she also works really closely with veterans at the Veterans Health Administration, or the VHA. And they are so lucky to have her, and I am lucky to have her as a friend because she's an amazing human being. I actually met her when I was on my very first overseas duty assignment in Korea, when I was lucky enough to have her as my roommate in the barracks. And after she got out of the army, she married someone who I think of as a brother and who was going through flight school at the same time that I was. So not only does she have all of this experience and understand the challenges of, active duty service members and veterans, but she also understands it from the perspective of being married to someone who's on active duty, so a military spouse, also being a mother, and also being a friend to me, with all of the complexities that that includes, and the patience that she has to have, right? And she's just been absolutely like crucial in helping me establish one, that I have a VA disability rating, right? She wanted to make sure that I'd actually been evaluated, and that I was in the system, to make it easier for me to access those benefits somewhere down the line. And I think it's probably because she's trying to save herself time later when I'm AFU, and she's the one that's got to like help me through all of it. But let's pretend it's all altruism for right now, right? So she knows my situation really, really well. She's known it, about lipedema, even before I knew what it was. Like, she understood the challenges that I had with my legs, with my arms, with the tenderness, with the bruising. And then once I got diagnosed, she's been on this lipedema journey with me. And so she understands my military rating super well. She knows exactly where I was when I got out of the military. And she also knows all of the issues that I've had since, even outside of the lipedema. And that includes knee surgery and other things. Like, I had a bunch of different categories of covered conditions that were, skin related, eyes, joint, mental health, all of those things, right? So since those covered conditions have gotten worse, she recommended that I go back and get reassessed, which isn't something that I really ever thought to do on my own. And I think this is probably a really good time to talk about what veteran service organizations are, because that was the one thing that she said, first and foremost, go talk to the VSO and have them walk you through the process. Now, if we get into the Wayback Machine, and we talk about what happened when I went to my very first VSO appointment as I was getting out of the military, they sat me down in the office and said, start from your feet and work your way up. Tell us every single thing, every part of your body that you had to go into a military medical facility or civilian medical facility while you're on active duty because you injured, right? And I was like, everything? Like, yeah, everything. So I was like, this is going to get awkward. And yeah, it did. But it was a really great exercise because you just don't think about these things in the military. You don't stop to think about all the things that are wrong. You really do concentrate on the things that are right. And also, what is pain? It's weakness leaving your body. What you don't think about is how these things could affect you, your follow-on years as a civilian, right? So when you have carpal tunnel and you're in the military, it's kind of a nuisance because you're like, oh, I have to either have a profile because I can't do push-ups, or I need to wear a brace when I do push-ups, or I said do. Or, maybe it's just kind of an annoyance because it's going to mean that you're not doing as many push-ups or doing them as fast. But in the civilian world, now having carpal tunnel means I can't sit at the computer for as long to do all of the typing that is an absolutely necessary part of my job, right? So it's a different impact, and you just don't think about that before you've had that experience as a civilian. And in fact, you may not even know what you're going to be doing once you are a civilian. So, veteran service organizations offer a range of services for veterans, for service members, dependents, and survivors. And some VSOs actually will do programming for veterans, like in the community, so job fairs, things like that. And others can organize events that are geared toward like certain demographics, right? A subset of veterans, like housing for homeless veterans. And they also do some training so that people will meet the federal regulatory requirements to become these accredited representatives who can then represent claimants, either before the Department of Veterans Affairs regional boards, and its Board of Veterans Appeals. So VSOs are paid, right? They're receiving funding from state, from county, maybe private funding sources, and they can also receive federal grants to support certain activities. But what they don't do is charge veterans. And so I always want to draw a line under that because I know that there are a lot of organizations out there when you look online, who are going to offer services and offer recommendations, maybe even sort of draw you in by offering, here's a free resource for you. But if you want their help after that, then it's for pay. And even though I know there might be complex cases where this is absolutely the right thing to do, or maybe you need to have a lawyer involved, I have no idea what that might look like. But I do know that you can start with a VSO because they literally do this every day. They are tied at the hip with the Veterans Administration and understand all of the changes legislatively, that are happening that are going to impact veterans' benefits, and they can help you understand what the process is going to look like. And I have been so excited about all the support that I've received from the veteran service organizations representatives that I've worked with, right? And so my last appointment where we established that line, sort of like, this is your intent to file, he also told me, I want you to take a look at these benefit questionnaires. So they are publicly available. And they are, what are they? DBQ, so disability benefit questionnaires. And each of these questionnaires is connected to a certain kind of disability, right? So if you look, and let's say your service connected disability is your ankle, right? Or a joint of some sort that it doesn't bend past a certain degree because of an injury that you sustained. That DBQ is going to tell you where you can find, like what would happen when you go to be reevaluated, what they're going to look like, and what would show a potential progression in that condition. Also, when you receive your letter where it lists out all of the conditions from the VA, so mine, it has my wrists on there, it has my skin disorder on there, it has mental health on there, and it gives you the associated disability rating, whether it's 10%, 20%, whatever percentage it is. They've told you, well, this is the percentage you got. You would have gotten a higher percentage had they seen evidence of this other thing. And so that other thing is something good to keep in mind, because if you know you've seen a progression like that, then that's a really good indicator that it might be appropriate to have a reassessment, right? I'll give you an example. One of the things was if you have a skin condition and you have to make a move from utilizing, say, a topical cream or topical solution to something that's like a biologic. That would be something that would indicate a progression. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally did that because my dermatologist was like, well, you can keep putting, like this little cream on every different spot and a different cream on this spot, or we can try a biologic for you. And that biologic was game changing, right? Like it was amazing. So I realized then, I was like, I've already met a condition and I also had knee surgery. So that was clearly on the list. Like that showed that the condition had gotten worse. It had gotten to the point where surgery was necessary or definitive intervention was necessary. So those were the indicators that I had that it did actually make sense to go back and have this reevaluation. So I want to then say, there are going to be things that have not progressed. There are going to be things that you may not want to re-engage on with the VA, right? Like those are all things that you can discuss with your VSO. But I want you to take these three things away as my tips to you to best position yourself if you're thinking about going in for another claim or an adjustment. So first, I want to make sure that you've got some familiarity with the va.gov website because honestly, this is going to be your source of truth. There are a lot of other websites out there that look similar and that have great information. I'm not knocking any of them, but what I am saying is that va.gov has to be updated. Like that's part of its mandate. And I wouldn't want you ill-informed because of another website being out of date, even though they're trying to provide the best information possible, right? va.gov is going to be the spot that you want to go to validate any information that you're seeing out there. The next thing I want you to do is make sure that you're reviewing your entitlement letter. So your entitlement letter has got that listing out of each of the conditions that you claimed and the VA's determination of the percentage associated with it. So that was the one where I was saying like, oh, this is for your skin and oh, this is for your mental health and this is for XYZ, that the other thing that's wrong, right? So it's really important to look at the language in that letter that's going to describe what would need to happen for a higher rating to be assigned. And then also, I want you to go to this website. I'll put it up here for you so that you can look at those DBQs. Those are public disability benefit questionnaires because that's where you can see exactly what they're going to do when you walk in to get your next evaluation. Because your VSO is going to let them know, like, these are the things that need to be reevaluated. They are going to then assign a provider who's going to schedule all of these different evaluations, and those evaluators are going to be assessing you according to the DBQ. So that's some critical information to be familiar with, right? And then the third thing I would say, if you haven't already gotten this from me throughout the rest of this video, is to work with an accredited and free VSO representative so that they can help you with the intent to file, with all of the evidence gathering, and then all of the different forms that you're going to need to file. So those are my three tips for you, and I will continue to update you throughout the process. I don't yet know whether I'm going to be able to file a claim or whether lipedema would be covered. It is a genetic disorder, but there's also, did my time in the military actually exacerbate the condition or worsen it, right? I don't know whether lipedema will be a covered condition. In fact, I can't find it in the list of DBQs. One of the sections is for lymphatic and venous disorders. And so I think that's kind of where it would fall because I do see lymphedema listed, just not lipedema. And I am aware like lipedema has genetic components, right? So the reality is I had lipedema the day that I joined the military, but that's only part of the equation when they're evaluating you for your disability rating. They're also asking themselves and you, like, did this condition worsen because of your service or the conditions that you served under while you were in the military? So that'll be something that when I find out, I will definitely share back with you. So go ahead and hit the like button and the subscribe button if you found this helpful. That'll also get you a notification when the next video comes out, and I will be sure to circle back with you to let you know what happened today in my appointment with the VSO and then what determination the VA comes back with. All right. Thanks. Have a great day and take care of yourself. Bye.